Hey there, hi there. Here are tips and tricks for every Chambers room. This is the order I'll be going through. I'm trying to make these as simple as possible, so some of the more advanced strats may not be mentioned. Tekton is a lot of people's first roadblock in Chambers. So before we talk about specific strategies, let's talk about the brain-dead way to always take no damage in this room. I recommend having him tagged and True Tile for you and him enabled, but this works just as fine without them. All we're going to do is click on the right corner of each side and run counterclockwise, attacking when we can. The attacking pace will change depending on your weapon, but it's the same run no matter which weapon. Make sure to get to one corner before clicking the next. If you don't, your pace might run you to one of his corners and he'll head back to the anvil. With the lance, I can see my True Tile move 3 times and then attack. With the Fang, I can see my True Tile move 4 times and then attack. With a Dragon Warhammer, I can see my True Tile move 5 times and then attack. Just keep the same method of running the corners and you will be fine. For any weapon, just take the attack speed and subtract 1. That's how many times you need to see your tile move before you attack. In groups, this falls apart a little bit. If people have different weapons with different attack speeds, or they just aren't on the same tick as each other, somebody is likely to get damaged by a hit. Groups can run around together, and whoever is slow can skip an attack to catch up, but only one person needs to be next to Tekton for him to not go to the anvil. So if you want to step back between attacks, that works as well. Sometimes the room layout has his southwest tile on the left. An easy way to set him up is when he is 2 tiles away from you, click diagonal and then attack him. Each magic book has a potential use depending on what you bring to Chambers. The standard spellbook can cast vulnerability at the start to lower his defense. Lunars can cast Vengeance and take a hit for speedrun strategies. Arceus can cast Thralls. Don't bring Ancients. My preferred book for Chambers is the Arceus book. In Tekton, make sure to summon the melee Thrall. The ranged Thrall doesn't do damage, and the mage Thrall does reduced damage in this room. To start the fight, you need to be within 4 tiles of him. After the fight initiates, you want to run him to the back of the room, but don't get him stuck on any ledges, otherwise they will interrupt your run. We want him at the back so we have more time to attack him as he walks towards the anvil. If you have True Tile enabled, you can click on him when there is a 1 tile gap between you and him to start the running around cycle flawlessly. If you do this correctly, you won't need protection prayers, but I recommend them just in case you goof up. Make sure everyone dumps their defense reducing specials immediately, preferably a Dragon Warhammer. Attack him on the way to the anvil, but when he gets there, sparks will fly at your tile and explode in a 3x3 radius. You don't want to be next to other team members, so find an unoccupied portion of the room. Unless you want to PK somebody, this is also acceptable. I like to do this method where I walk 1 line and then run to skip a tile and walk back the other way. If you ever want to practice this boss, just select the challenge mode option when you make your raid. He will always be the first room. I'm just gonna say it. Get the tile pack plugin and use it for this room. It makes learning it so much easier. The colors match the typical OSRS scheme. Red is melee, blue is mage, green is range. White means don't change the color. If the orb hits 2 different colored crabs, it will disappear. White doesn't count for this though. Whenever the orb hits a crab, it will turn to the right. With this in mind, we should be able to clear every crystal with a maximum of 3 crabs. You'll drag the crabs and stun them on the anchor tiles. You can either equip your Dragon Warhammer or pick up a hammer at the entrance of the room. Be careful of when you stun the crabs, as it does count as a melee attack, so if you stun it when the orb is close, you can quickly cast a spell to change the color, or you can shoot it with a bow to change the color. There will be 4 crystals in each room. Once you bounce the orb around and hit them all with the correct color, the room is done. After doing this room a couple of times, it becomes much quicker. If you're on the Arceus spellbook and you forgot to bring your trident in, you can actually cast Undead Grasp on one of the crabs to change its color. It uses the same runes as Thralls, so you should have them. If you have a crab in the correct spot but you're in the way, you can move diagonally to keep the crab in the same spot but move out of the way. Ice Demon is a bit of a slow room, but it can offer decent points, has a bank, and it has an axe in case you have Muttadiles later in the raid. Stow away your inventory at the bank and pick up an axe and the tinderbox. Chop away and put it in the brazier. Wintertot trained you for this. If you're going for speed times, you can put each inventory into a different brazier. It's not much faster though, so I would recommend everyone in the party share the same brazier so they can grab some points. If you use the brazier with an Ice Fiend, he'll put it out quicker, but this usually doesn't affect the time at all. You can actually cheese the points in this room a little bit by letting the Ice Demon's Ice Shield thing regenerate. Here's my wife getting about 4,000 points just from this one room. This isn't efficient, but it might be nice for the 40,000 point combat achievement, or just helping a friend snipe a purple. While fighting the Ice Demon, you can move side to side while praying range and dodge all damage. If you don't pray range, he has a magic attack that's a bit more difficult to dodge. If you're in a group, only one person has to dodge the attacks. Everyone else can stand by the lighter colored wall and basically AFK. The other way to dodge all damage is by the entrance walking back and forth. This doesn't use run, and you don't have to pray either. I don't think this is worth it with a Bofa though, as you lose a tick each cycle. I would only use this with a T-bow or a Shadow. If you brought the standard spellbook, fire spells combined with the Tome of Fire are amazing here. Otherwise, Thralls are your best bet. You can use Lunars as well if you like to get hit.
Hit me with a fucking boulder, bitch.
See what happens.
Oh well, he's dead now.
Get him right at the end.
Make sure to have some sort of anti-poison for this room. They can poison you even if you pray and dodge correctly. If you pray range and dodge their poison ball and unwanted exploding children, you should take no damage in this room. If we can get them stuck on a ledge, we can safe spot them while making some tea or something and save some rend energy. If you're against a wall, they cannot jump to you. So we can position ourselves next to a ledge and stay away from the wall to have them jump to us. Now we just have to run to the other side of the ledge and finish off the helpless politician. If you're safe spotting one lizard and the other one decides to be rude and come your way, make sure to be ready to run. It's unfortunate, but you can still dodge all damage with both lizards aggroed to you. Just run and attack till one is dead, and then try and safe spot the remaining bro. The only spellbook with really any benefit here is the Arceus. Summon a Thrall and let it do its thing. These guys get more hate than they are due, I think. It's a fairly simple room, they give good points, and they give good supplies. Looking at these cockroach fellows, the ranged gentleman is holding a bunch of rocks to throw at you, the melee lad has his tentacles up and is ready to engage in fisticuffs, and the underpaid magician doesn't need arms because he uses his brain to hurt you. Or if you turn on this plugin, they'll be color-coded. I recommend the plugin. You cannot let them get more than 33% apart from each other in health. If you are solo, the plugin will tell you exactly how much damage you can do. If you are in a group, it will tell you their percentage. For a group, look at the highest percentage and subtract 33% from it to know the lowest any Vanguard's health can be. A quick way to do this, for those of you that are bad at math, is to just take off a 3 from the tens place. While that is only 30% instead of 33%, this allows for some margin of error when you randomly hit back-to-back max hits. I personally just use a Bofa and Fang in here. Trident seems very weak. However, if I had a Shadow, I would likely just bring the Shadow and Melee. You want to avoid aggroing multiple at once, as you will take quite a lot of damage. However, if you are fighting the range Vanguard and need to switch, you can step under him and aggro another one. The range Vanguard gets confused easily. The Thieving room is possibly the easiest of all the Chambers room. It does have a bank chest, which is pretty handy. You click on a box to get grubs. You place grubs in trough. Some boxes will deal slight damage to you, and one box will give you bats that you can eat. If you use the plugin, it helps you identify which box is which. Putting the grubs past the scavenger beats limits will not grant extra points. If you only need one more grub, there is no point in getting a full inventory of grubs. Some thieving rooms have a nice layout, like this, where you can circle these 4 chests and not use any run energy. If you are helping a friend through chambers, this is an easy room for them to get some points and hopefully pool a low-level purple. You can optimize this room by bringing a lockpick from Scavengers, and you can also bring a thieving boost such as the Thieving Cape, as you get more grubs at level 100 thieving. This room gets a lot of hate, and it's deserved. I hate Vespula. I really only recommend running this room if you are doing a challenge mode, or if you're a Giga Chad gamer that is doing a speedrun and you have a shadow. Make sure to set your quick prayers to Redemption and Rigor. You will hide in this spot, and then attack the portal and immediately run back to this spot. As long as you have at least level 90 hit points, your redemption will trigger before you die. After it triggers, drink a sip of Restore and reactivate your quick prayers. If you have a prayer in hand, it's possible to let your prayer regenerate while attacking the portal. The timing is a bit tricky, and if your prayer runs out before it can redemption, you can very easily die. The Bofa's damage is so low here that you will need a stamina potion. If you forget to bring a stamina potion in this room, it's pretty much game over. Even with a stamina potion, sometimes you get unlucky and just noodle 0 after 0 and the egg will hatch and fully heal the portal. This doesn't necessarily mean the room is over. You can kill the small bugs and go back to the portal, but you did lose all your progress because the portal got fully healed. Additionally, if you notice you're not going to kill the portal before one of the eggs hatches, you can run over here and grab some flowers and then feed the eggs. It will give you a little extra time. Also, if you attack the portal quick enough when entering the room, Vespula won't be able to fertilize her eggs, so the timing isn't as tight. I love this room. It's a very simple room, but there's a variety of methods to clear it. You need to cross the rope and grab the crystal to finish the room. While crossing the rope, the archers and mages will attack you. Because of this, it's usually best to kill them first. Attack them one at a time. In a group, they will only focus on the person they're aggroed to. This means if somebody else attacks it, you can attack them without taking any damage. The enemies have the same attack range as a Bofa, T-Bow, or the Shadow on long range. This means you can step to the back of the room if you need a break from being attacked. A lot of the rooms also have this safe spot behind the flower. These safe spots can be utilized by slower weapons, such as the Twisted Bow, to hide behind after every attack. This makes it so the enemies can only attack as quick as you can attack. Combining the knowledge that they focus the person they are aggroed to, and the fact that there are safe spots, this room can be done with 0 damage taken in groups. Whoever the enemy is aggroed to can go into the safe spot, and the other are free to get attacks in. The enemy will then aggro to somebody else attacking, and that person goes into the safe spot. Rinse and repeat until they are all perished, and you have your crystal. The archers in particular can do a lot of damage very quick. I try to counteract this by tick eating them, so instead of taking the full 40 or so damage they would normally do, I only take something like a 20. It is possible to perform a tightrope skip and avoid this whole room. I will link a guide in the description below going into detail on how to do that. For this room you need to equip a pickaxe and then attack them. The higher level pickaxe, the more damage it does, except Dragon and Crystal do the same amount of damage. If you would like, you can still use a Dragon Warhammer. Even though it will hit a 0, the effect can still occur. You need to make sure to step back 2 squares immediately after each time you attack. This makes it so the falling rock cannot hurt you. The melee attack can still hit you, but it doesn't do too much damage. You can pray melee to reduce the damage if you feel so inclined. If you want to save run energy in this room, after you run back 2 tiles, you can step forward 1 tile and then wait 3 ticks. An easy way to visualize these ticks is with the Visual Metronome plugin. Another way to do this is have Control Walk enabled. Step back 3 tiles and then Control click the Guardian. This will save just as much run as the waiting method, but you don't have to count ticks. Just Control click the Guardian as soon as you have moved back 3 tiles. This is because walking has the same effect on energy as standing still. This room actually has a unique mechanic in that there is no cap on points for getting pushed back. So if we wanted, we could abuse this for hundreds of thousands of points. Is this efficient at all? No. You could abuse this though to easily get the 40,000 point combat achievement. Or maybe you just want to get hit by your stone mommy dami for 6 hours. Will you get amazing loot from getting over 200,000 points in one raid solo? Yeah, this is definitely a waste of time. Maybe if you're trying to farm your low level friend a purple it might be okay, but don't do this. Vasa is another room I only recommend doing in challenge modes. He is a decently fun boss, but he uses quite a bit of supplies, and with bad gear he can take a while. If you're on Lunars, cast Vengeance before entering the room. After the teleport, I drink a brew sip or 2 depending on how shite I'm feeling at the game that day. You can dodge all of the damage, but if you miss dodging a rock, praying range helps mitigate this damage. You should range Vasa and use a stab weapon on his crystals. If you move 2 tiles every time you hear the noise, you will always dodge his rocks. Or you can do it the easy way and constantly run while attacking. You will likely use a stamina dose if you are running the whole time though. This room becomes much easier with better gear upgrades. I would not recommend doing this room with less than a Bofa and a Fang in challenge modes. Dragon Claws are very good for the crystals and will prevent him from healing as much. Don't bother using a Dragon Warhammer on Vasa, as the crystals heal him and restore his defenses. If he spends too long at the crystals, he will go to the center of the room and do a teleport attack again. This will be the same as the beginning of the fight, so if you're on Lunars, you can get in another Vengeance. If you're using Thralls, ranged Thralls don't do any damage to the crystals, and Mage Thralls do reduced damage. Melee Thralls will do full damage to the crystals, but they have difficulty pathing between Vasa and the crystals, so I think Mage Thralls are best overall here. If you have a Salve Amulet Enhanced Imbued, make sure you bring it here. Unless you use the Shadow, then just wear your Occult Necklace. It is very possible to just take them one at a time while praying magic. You will clear the room with taking a little bit of damage, but it won't be too bad. If you're in their side of view, they will try to melee you though. So we can get them stuck on some ledges that are too small for them to pass through, and stand right on their corner, so they want to melee us, but they can't, and it will lower their damage. Additionally, there are several locations we can corner safe spot them. They want to move east and west before they move north or south, so even though he could clearly move north and hit me right here, because of his weird programming brain, he wants to move to the side to get to me. You should not take off Protect Magic even if they are safe spotted, because sometimes they will still cast a spell. They just prefer to try and melee you. There are 2 ways to handle this room. You can use an axe and chop it, or you can freeze the Muttadile before he gets to the tree. I prefer the chopping method, as freezes sometimes splash. If you do freeze though, just be ready to freeze the Muttadile around 40% of their health, because that is when they head to the tree. You can use a Zamorak Godsword or magic for this. If you're in a challenge mode with thralls and you forgot your axe, you can always throw a Hail Mary Undead Grasp. I think this has only worked once for me though, and I may have been imagining that it even worked. While chopping the tree, you can attack the baby Mutta each time you see a woodcutting experience drop and go back to chopping without losing ticks. Be careful not to get the Mutta too low or they will heal. For this reason, I pray Protect from range and Augury while chopping the tree to lower the damage I take from the baby and mama. If the baby is next to you, it's ideal to pray melee as that's the stronger attack. Some layouts of the room, you can get the baby stuck on the side of the tree. As long as it can line up its southwest tile, it won't melee you. Except for sometimes Muttadiles remember they left their cocaine stash in the corner of the room and do the weirdest pathing. But usually you can avoid their melee attacks this way. It also slows down the damage because they see you and they want to melee you, so they don't range you. Do not let the Muttadile next to you. Find a corner where her southwest tile can see you, and you'll probably be safe. Probably. You will want to practice tick eating against Muttadile. After I'm in my safe corner, if I see her shake her head for a mage attack, I eat. And if I see the range attack in midair, I eat. Otherwise, you'll spam eat this whole room. I really hope this room gets some love from Jagex. If you weren't aware, when you scout a raid, you get these weird letters. These stand for the order of the rooms. P equals puzzle rooms, C is for combat rooms, S is for scavenger rooms, and F is for farm rooms. The farm rooms are your prep areas. While you are running through the raid, you will want to figure out when to stop to kill the scavs and get supplies. If you got enough overloads from Tekton, Muttadiles, or Vanguards, you won't need to make any overloads. All you will need to do for your prep is get bitchy seeds, mushrooms, and then darkened juice. I usually bring 1 prayer enhance, 1 overload, 4 to 5 restores, and the rest of my inventory will be Xeric's aids into Ulm with me. Do not enter Ulm without an overload. While killing scavengers, it's a good idea for everyone in the party to try and hit each scav. Even if you're an Iron Man, if you did damage, you share the drops. If you didn't get an overload potion from the rooms, you will need all 3 seed types: mushrooms, juice, and Sicily. You will make a Kodai, Elder, and Twisted potion with the Golpar herbs, and then you'll combine them with a Noxifer to make your overload. If you are bringing a friend to scale for you, they can kill scavs for fishing supplies, fish in the prep room, hurt themselves, and heal with the fish for points. The chests have a private and shared storage options. Ironmen need to be careful of the shared storage. In a solo run, Irons can use the shared and have extra room for themselves. But in a party, anything you put in the shared storage cannot be removed. If you're on the Lunar spellbook, you can cast Humidify to instantly fill all your vials. First things first. Graphics. I'm a fan of the HD client, but it makes falling crystals much harder to see. I recommend turning it off. Additionally, turning on low detail removes a lot of clutter from the ground and makes everything a lot more visible. I'm going to be talking about Ulm's phases as if you were in a party of 8 or less people. After that, you start to get more phases, but they are the same as 1 and 2. In phases 1 and 2, Ulm will either rise with the power of Flame, Acid, or Crystal. While Ulm is auto-attacking, he has a 1/3 chance to replace an auto-attack with a phase-specific attack. A common misconception is these phase-specific attacks are his special attacks, and if you see one, you failed to skip his specials. This is not true. Getting hit by a phase-specific attack is fine. In the Flame phase, he gets access to a burn attack, which really just sucks that there's not a lot you can do to combat it. If you go near a teammate the burn spreads, So if you like to PK, have some fun. He also gains access to a firewall. This is fairly easy to dodge as long as you're moving sideways when he attacks. But if you do get caught, you can free yourself with water spells, ice spells, or humidify. Arceus book is the only book that doesn't have a water-based spell, but you can bring a watering can if you're still learning and really need to free yourself. In the acid phase, he will gain access to an attack that throws acid all over the ground. This is one of his easier attacks to dodge. Just don't stand in the acid. If you're doing 4 to 1, it's not a big deal to step in a pool or two in order to not mess up your cycle. He can also make acid follow you in this phase. This is more annoying to deal with, and I tend to just walk it off. If you can make his head turn while walking it off, you can get less attacks at you. In the crystal phase, he can drop crystals at your location. This is similar to the acid one, where you want to walk it out, but it's a lot easier to attack between crystal drops because you have 2 ticks, so you can attack without being hit. Also, sometimes he throws bombs out. Usually he has bad aim and throws them far away, but if they are close to you, just go away. In phase 3, Ohm will have access to all of the attacks, and a healing hand special as well. You will have to kill both hands about the same time, or one will revive. It is my recommendation to get the mage hand to low health, kill the melee hand, and then finish off the mage hand. After both hands are dead, you begin the head phase. Crystals will fall, he will have access to all of his previous attack, except for the melee hand specials, and he will have a new attack, a blue puddle that you will need to step in, otherwise you take damage. How you handle these phases depend on if you are in solo or in a group. Let's start with the mage hand. If you don't have access to a trident weapon, I don't think you should be trying to solo. There are 3 lines we attack from. It doesn't really matter how close or far you are, just the horizontal movement is important. You'll attack him from here, immediately move to here and attack, and then run over here and attack. Make sure your trident is not on long range, otherwise you will not be dragged, which is very important for this method. You can't really miss ticks for this method, otherwise Olm will be attacking you. It's more chill than it sounds though. Mage thralls are very helpful here, because if your trident misses, Olm won't turn his head correctly, and thralls have incredible accuracy. The important part of this method is attacking exactly when Olm turns his head. Doing it blindly, you have about a 25% chance to click at the correct time because Olm and you are both on a 4-tick cycle. You begin to learn the timing when you click over time. The difficult part of this method is starting it. After you get in the rhythm, it's very, very simple. But I promised you cheese methods, and gosh diddly darn it, am I gonna give you cheese methods. Olm gets an action every 4 ticks. If he is facing you, this will be an attack. If he is not facing you, this will be a head turn. Either way, it happens every 4 ticks. Some pro gamers can count ticks in their head flawlessly. Not me. Oh, not me. So let's turn on the visual metronome and put it on a 4-tick timer. Now I can check which tick Olm either turns his head or attacks, and it will always be on that tick for the rest of this phase. In this case, he's attacking on tick 2, so if I click on 1, if I click him on when it says 1, I will attack on tick 2 and be perfectly timed with him, and this will last the rest of the phase. So if I ever miss a tick throughout the whole phase, I can just attack on that tick I said earlier, and I'm perfectly back in cycle. Melee hand is the hard part of solo Olm. The visual metronome trick from the mage hand carries on for the melee hand as well. To start basically any melee hand cycle, we need to start at this tile and click the hand the tick before the head turns or attacks. Using the same phase as before, we will click the melee hand on tick 1. My recommendation for learning solo Olm is to begin with the 1 to 0 method. You start here, attack the hand, run here, and run back to the start tile and repeat. You will probably need to bring an extra stamina potion in the room with you, but Olm will not be able to hit you at all the entire melee phase, and it helps you learn his timings. After you learn 1 to 0, you should learn 4 to 1. You start at the same tile as 1 to 0, attack at this tile, and then run to this tile for 2 attacks. If Olm is in the flame phase, or phase 3, you will want to do this movement in between your 2 attacks at this tile. This skips the flame wall attack. Your 4th attack will be at the first attack tile, and then you will repeat the cycle. What's that? You want more cheese for getting into the 4 to 1 cycle? Well, if you insist. Olm has a 4 attack cycle, and each attack is 4 ticks, so let's set our visual metronome to a 16 tick cycle. Now, it's very important to see when his head first turns or attacks at the beginning of the phase. In this case, it happened at tick 14, which means we finish the mage hand and get to the melee hand, we will click to attack at tick 13, and we will be perfectly in cycle. If you ever get off the 4 to 1 cycle and he's hitting you twice instead of once, you can alternate 3-1 and 4-1 until he is only hitting you once during 4-1. This isn't the best way to get him synced up, but I think it's the most brain dead way. The important part of the head phase for solo Olm is making the head turn, so you need to run as much as possible between attacks. If you have a bofa, you will count your tile moving 3 times before you attack. If you are using a crossbow or a twisted bow, you will count your tile moving 4 times before attacking. If he is facing one side of the room and you are almost at the other side, it is important to stop before you reach the other side. This way he will turn to the middle, and you can step a little bit to the side to get an extra head turn. Group Olm is generally a lot simpler, so I'm going to keep it short and sweet. You kill the mage hand first, and then the melee hand. During the mage hand, you have one person sit at the melee hand. They need to not cross this line of tiles. They will take 1 auto attack per cycle. If they get acid or crystals, they should walk it out while staying on their side. They need to have the trident on long range. This is the easiest position, and this is probably where you should put learners. You have the person setting the head. They generally are the ones who know what is going on in the raid, and they'll tank 1 hit per cycle in order to skip the specials. If you're setting the head, you can use the visual metronome trick mentioned in the solo portion to know when the specials will happen, just in case you lose track. Then you have the runners. They run between these 2 tiles. The cue to run is when they see the head turning, they run to the other tile so the head can't see them. The melee hand, you usually want a 1 gap space between each other in case of the burn or somebody being a lunatic with poison or crystals. If you get portals, you usually stack on the thumb of the melee hand, but if there's a bomb or poison, you'll have to adapt and move a little bit. During the head phase, if there are at least 3 people, 1 person should stay on each side, and the rest of the group should run the head. The people on the sides will take 1 attack per turning cycle, and everyone in the middle should be able to take no damage, provided they dodge the falling crystals. People that are low on potions should prioritize getting the center. Chambers is fairly tough to learn. You'll probably fail a lot. This is okay. I personally learned solo chambers before group, and I had a good time. But most people say you should do groups first. It all just depends on your mentality going into it. This video took a really long time to make, so if you enjoyed it, a like and subscribe would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much, and good luck on your twisted bows.